y'all can see the panic on my producer's face. So here's the thing that I do, Miss Abigail. We'll get to you in a moment. Here's the thing I do. I am a troll IRL, as the kids say, which means in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And what trolls do is I try to poke her until she loses her mind. And then I go, ha ha ha, I got you. You know what
You
I
need
mean?
help, sir.
He
I,
wants to get divorced.
Sir, you need help. You're the
it's the
problem.
line. It's the line.
You're
Like,
the problem.
it's teetering right along the lines. That's
Listen,
where you
women
feel
supporting
alive.
women. Women supporting women. I don't care what she did.
Um,
I'm supporting her.
she gave a thumbs up in the background, and that is a signal that this will be a very, very long show. All
This one.
right. Welcome to Urban Academia. I'm your host, Jay Zilla, and with me I have the wonderful Abigail B. Please introduce yourself and let us know who are you, what do you do, and frapping why.
Hello, hello, hello. I am Abigail. I am a board certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. So what I do mainly is, behavioral health, psychiatry. I diagnose and treat mental disorders, or the labs. So basically, what most of what your psychiatrist is gonna do, I
Mhm.
do it. People just love us a little bit more. That's why.
I like it. I like it. So, can you give drugs?
I can prescribe um medications.
Mhm.
If I do have my own practice, I can also dispense said medications. So yeah.
Man, so okay. Do you ever get people signing up just to get drugs?
Listen, I can tell, pretty quickly, right? Like some people want certain things. We're not doing that, because my goal is safety, right? I'm not gonna enable people, with certain behaviors. But I can tell pretty on, I'm gonna have that discussion with you, uh, and tell you, no, ma'am, no, so no, we're not doing that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. All right. Okay. How'd you get into the business?
So actually, my mom was a psychiatric nurse back in the UK
Hmm.
a long time ago. And how did I get into it? I didn't even think about my mom getting
Hmm.
into this. This is what happened. So I left Louisiana. I was gonna move to Houston, and my friend was like, "Hey, why don't you apply for psych? And then you can switch over to, like, women's health or med surg or ICU." I
Hmm.
was like, "Cool. I hate this anyway. I'm just
Wait,
gonna do
what is the
it."
this? What is the this that you're hating?
I did not like mental health. It was probably like my worst, class in school. I
Ah.
hated it. I was like, this is, I don't like this. So I got in, and my first day, they're like, well, there are 10 of prisoners here. This is horrible. I'm like, okay. And that first night I was like, oh, this is fun. Oh, I like y'all. Y'all are
Wait,
spicy.
the patients,
The whole, because
the
I
whole
ended up,
experience.
yeah, between, like, my colleagues and then the patients, I was like, oh, this is fun. I like this. This is, and I stuck with it. So yeah.
That's so funny. So I used to work as a oh man, so many jobs, so many jobs. You can unpack that for me later, right?
Okay.
Why are there so many jobs on my tech work history? But my most recent regular 9 to 5 job was working as a caregiver. Care specialist, something or other, for a facility that will. No, okay, that's the other show. Sorry. But basically, what we did, it was an adult daycare for senior citizens who were dealing with dementia, you know, most notably Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And anytime people hear that, they go, "Ooh, not me," right? But while you have moments like that, for sure, especially if you're short staffed or that gum you forgot to get your coffee or eat, that bagel in the morning, um, it could be rough. But for the most part, it was super fun. You never know what they're gonna say, where they at, who they are, and the facilitators of this is a lady by the name of Jessica Logger and Miss Risa, her bestie, and double one. Um, what they're really good at telling us or teaching us how to absorb, redirect. And when I tell you some of the funniest stories have come out of that, like I don't think much I can say on here.
Yeah.
I know you know how that goes. Yeah, there it is. Mayberry Senior Services. Yeah, if you're in the Albuquerque area, we highly suggest you go check them out. All right. So you say that you had a lot of fun with the atmosphere of your job and everything. You're rolling along. Talk to me about a rough situation and how do you handle those moments? Like, what's your
Oh,
tactic?
oh my God. They are, in working in psychiatry, behavioral health, there are a lot of, tough moments where it's not the physical, because to be honest, right now my job is not physical. It used to be, but
Right.
not, no longer. It's just it gets mentally exhausting, and when you are the type of provider who actually cares about, your patients and what you do,
Ooh,
sometimes you take that on you. I have gone through some of my charts, and just read, devastating
right.
stories, what some of I call my people, what some of my people have been through, with trauma and depression. I remember when I worked back in Austin before I moved out here to Albuquerque. Um, I had this kid who was really struggling, so parents brought him in. He had some, delays, developmental delays, and the fact that I worked in a setting where we did not have a lot of resources,
Mm-hmm.
um, kind of like really hit me hard because he would act out, right? It wasn't any fault of his, but he would act out. And because, I don't think his parents knew any better, or, they did not really know what to do with him. They will always take him to the ER,
Right.
and the ER is like, we can't do anything for you, right? Either they're increasing his meds, adding more meds on there, not really helping him. And I was like, I'm going to be really honest with you. Like a lot of this, we need a behavioral specialist to kind of help him and work with him versus, either he gets sent to ER, or, after that is he gets hospitalized in
Mm.
an inpatient facility, which, my goal as an outpatient provider is, to keep my patients and clients out of the hospital as much as I can. So, being in an environment where I don't have a lot of resources, kind of gets to me because I feel kind of like, locked
Mm.
in a sense where, okay, I don't know what else. I want to do so much more for you, but my hands are tied,
Right.
and just, it's just taking some of that on mentally. It's exhausting. There's a lot of burnout in my profession. I try to think about it. I've had, patients cuss me out. Like,
Yeah, buddy.
like, like, I'm just trying to help, man. Like, why?
Wait, wait. Let me ask you this: was it
Yeah.
because you forced them to wear glasses?
Listen, you're a grown man. You're an adult.
I'm just saying, tag team my wife. Put your glasses on, old man. I'm like,
Oh,
whoa, whoa, whoa. Where's all the
that's
hate?
but you can't see though.
You know what? I will admit my vision seems to be a little bit more clear when I wear my glasses.
You're welcome.
That's how humble I am.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay. Miss Abigail B, we brought you on here to talk about mental health, right? And like this
Yes.
is your reason for being, right? I'm so excited to have you on. But that is such a broad term. It's used everywhere in every way. Like, hey, get in here and do these dishes. Oh, I just really feel like my mental health is not in the space for dishes right now. It's like I feel really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a small clip. I say I get to take all the credit. She does all the work. All right, look, it looks like I'm pointing at you, but right behind Miss Abigail's screen is my wife's like seething, just glare. Like, can y'all feel the heat? If you see me start sweating, it ain't the hoodie.
He's defaming me.
I do not accept that. I
You know what? See, here it is. Long show. All right, let's play this clip.
Difference between mental health and mental illness.
So, mental health is what we all have.
WakeMed psychiatrist Dr. Narissa Price describes mental health as a continuum. It's always there, positive or negative.
It has to be really intentionally looked after, that you don't just wake up having good mental health.
Think of it like a sliding scale. At its best, you're excelling, joyful, energetic, high performing at work or school. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you may be in crisis, extremely anxious, not sleeping, perhaps thoughts of suicide, serious signs of mental illness.
There's a lot of complexity that goes into us developing mental illness that we don't fully understand.
Being aware of the triggers can make a huge difference. Sometimes it's genetics, a family history of mental illness or substance use disorder, or unresolved stress, a death, financial problems, divorce. But 75% of mental illnesses begin before the age of 24, triggered by childhood trauma that's never been confronted.
All right. What about that is right? What are they missing? Help us out. What the frap is mental health?
So think about it this way, right? Now we focus a lot of, on our physical health, right? Our body. How is your body feeling? How's my heart? All of that. And you go to a doc like, hey doc, I think my blood pressure is high. We focus on physical health. Now we forget about our mind. Our mind carries so much and does so much, and we tend to neglect it. We don't think about the health of our mind, right? So that
Mhm.
that really is, mental health. Now that mental illness starts creeping in when we are not at that equilibrium, right? We are unbalanced. Like our mental health, either we're low or we're high. Our mind or our brain is not happy. And there are different causes of mental illness. It could be the environment you grew up in. It could be, like financial stressors. It could be genetics. So there are a lot of components that, or risk factors, that we can list that will, and I tell people it's going to throw will cause mental illness. And there are a bunch of mental illnesses, a bunch, you know. But yeah, but a lot of that is right. Now, when it comes to mental illness itself, um, I don't know if we're going to talk about this later, but a huge portion of that is the stigma around
Mhm.
that, and why people, refuse to seek care, um, when they're not feeling their best. There are just a lot of things that we need to discuss as a community or as people, as to why is it okay for us to go to our primary care provider or primary and be like, hey,
Right.
I feel like my sugars are high or my blood pressure is high. And, we don't want to talk about, hey, I'm not feeling so good today. I'm feeling
You know
sad.
what? You know what? You are so nice. Okay? But what the world needs now is not more nice. Look, get the frap off y'all's backsides and go do something. See, she
I
can't
will
say that.
I will call you out. I will call you out. I call people,
Yeah.
I'm like, we're not doing that today.
Uh-huh.
I will tell my people, I'm like, no, no, we're
Yeah.
not. But
But you're
but
talking about the stigma and everything. How many times in our community it's like, oh, Uncle Joe just crazy, right? Or some other probably more serious issues where you just say, you know what? Like, we'll just keep the kids away from this person because you know how they be acting sometimes. But like no
Yeah.
one is actually getting professional help.
But
Yeah.
do you think that it's people are truly dismissive, or is it that we've dismissed it for so long that now we don't even know what that looks like? So we don't know how to identify when a person is having a mental health issue because we've just been told all our life, oh,
Yeah.
they're throwed off, or, they're just weird, or whatever the case may be. Because I think that's probably something that happens often, is that a person's acting out of character and we just decide, no, that's just who they are, versus something could be wrong.
Well, she's so sexy when she asking questions all smart. Like, I know that's probably. Listen, this is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Like you're gonna read one day, right? Once I'm rich and famous, Jay Zillow from Urban Academia sued by producer for unwanted advances.
Listen, y'all need to get a room. Do I need to like step away for a second?
Hey, producer,
No.
Oh, okay. No, never mind.
All right, so back to our topic. Yeah, so I think we're dismissed it for so long we don't even recognize it. Because even when I do talk to my patients, sometimes I'm like, I'll ask them like, hey, what's going on? And, they will tell me like, okay, hey, I'm feeling sad, or I just don't have any energy, I don't have any motivation. They will tell me their story, what's going on at that time, and I'll be like, I know what's wrong with you. You have depression. And like, oh, and then I have to further explain what that is, and they're like, oh, it makes sense now, right? So I think,
Mhm.
especially in our community, we're so dismissive about it, plus we're not able to truly recognize, what's
Right.
going on. And I think that's something that we do need to start doing as a community, as providers, just start educating
Mhm.
people like, hey, this is what you need to look for. Don't dismiss it like, oh, Uncle Joe is just crazy. He be drinking too much, or he,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Like this case with this kid in the NBA, John Morant. Like, yes, he's flashing a gun in the video,
yeah.
but like him flashing a gun in the video is the problem. Like, so if we take the gun out of it, like in between basketball games, up all night at a strip club, where my main man Bomani Jones talks about, like, y'all should know there's something wrong when he's at a strip club and he's the one taking his clothes off. Like he's there shirtless and just kind of hanging out or whatever. And he's drinking like whole bottles of like wine and taking them to the head and tequila, I think at one point. Like a bottle of tequila. Like I remember college. A bottle of tequila. Like
That is
why are we not supporting him? Like, oh, John Morant just young and crazy. Like, well, no, can we say that maybe he's dealing with this fame the
I
wrong way?
mean,
He's from small town South Carolina and now he's in Memphis.
are we supporting his behavior because he's famous?
Lots of checks. But if you were okay, let's say you were
I think people support their behavior because they recognize his behavior, because it might be behavior they engage in too. So to call him out would be to call yourself out.
ooh, there was a guy who says like that's not dangerous to large groups of people. Like even some suburban kids. It's like, yeah, NBA young boy, yeah, flash your gun. Yeah, what's the problem?
Yeah.
What's the problem? Oh, take it to the head, right? Take the ball to the neck. Like, what's the problem? That's what they say in the rap songs. That's what I see in the movies.
Yeah. I mean, I believe we do have some problematic behaviors. Again, I asked myself and I asked my friends, like, hey, is this just normal now? We just think this is normal and we just like, just go along with it.
Mhm.
But, we need to really start having real conversations and, just talk about it. Like, hey, this is not cool. And again, you cannot blame certain individuals because of the environment they grew up in. Maybe that's all they know. They don't know no better. So we need
Yeah.
to really start being honest with
Now, Miss,
ourselves and and our people, and be like, hey, nah, fam.
wait a minute. So, Miss Abigail B, okay,
Yes.
I don't think you would allow me to use such strong language as blame. Like, right? Let's remember our training here. Okay, everyone take a deep breath. Right? I believe that we are so educated on this matter that possibly people are jumping to some conclusions or not taking this as seriously as we should. I believe that young man has went from almost nothing to we want you to be the face of the NBA. Like what? In like 5 or 6 years. Like, and I know people from your couch, oh man, give me that money. Give me that fame. Watch what I do. Struggle.
Yeah.
Like you have no idea. I've peeked into that world briefly through some other friends of mine, and it's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough. So my thing is like I think it's more fruitful to take blame out of it and say, what can we be collectively doing? Right? Because the NBA and all those sponsors, they want to maximize profits. Okay, we can find a way to maximize profit. You know how you're not going to maximize profit? If this guy knocks himself off. How are you going to make money off of him then? His friends and family around him who may or may not be working because, I've got Mr. Daggum $100 million check over here. Right?
Yeah.
Like collectively, what can we all do? Like, even if you're coming in from a selfish standpoint, I want to make money off this guy for a long, long time. Like, maybe start thinking about, encouraging some better behavior. Right?
But true. I agree that, but I think, that is generally, that is the whole problem with said society that we're living in, because from what I've noticed is most people are greedy, right? They're not going to care about how you're doing, how you're feeling. How can we make money off you? And it's not just about the NBA or like the huge companies out there. It's, even in our day-to-day lives, like the people you work for, do they care about you? Like your mental health could be, horrible right now. They don't care. Your boss is going to ask you, why are you late for work? Why aren't you doing this? Why? So all of these companies truly do not care. They care about using you. And it doesn't matter if it's an NBA, NFL, it doesn't matter. So we need to start taking care of ourselves and looking out for us and our people, because they're not going to do it for us.
Do you ever feel like that you see the opposite, to where there is a overconflation of mental health being used as an excuse for everything? Do you ever find that you have people, sitting down with you and you're just like, oh Lord, why are you here? Because people just have a certain measure of expectation not to have a bad day or not to ever feel sad. Like, these are normal things, but we've maybe on some level made it so big that I think to some level we as a society have said, ugh, I'm so tired of hearing about mental health. And so people are really getting lost in the cracks.
I I see that a lot. And I've had people who are, as humans, they're horrible humans. And they will do something and their excuse is, oh, it's my mental health. No, it's not your mental health. You're just a horrible person. Right.
I don't like how
And
you're looking at me when you say that.
I can't even see you. I can't see you. Yeah. So now that I'm saying mental health has become a little bit more recognized, or people are paying attention to a little bit more, people will, some people, I'm not saying all, will use that as an excuse. So this happened. Oh, my mental health. Oh, my mental health. Is it really your mental health, or are you having trouble coping? Do you not know how to cope? Right. And when I talk to my people and patients, I like to set realistic expectations with them. You're not going to have, even if you're stable on meds, you're not going to have, it's not going to be happy, happy, joy, joy every single day. You're going to have stress. Life is going to come at you. What I want you to do is, can you cope? Can you manage? I don't need to adjust your medications. You might not really, and before I even start medications, I make sure that this is, truly mental health disorder, because a lot of our mental health disorders, in order for them to get diagnosed is, a good example, just with depression, you can feel sad today, right? That does not mean you're depressed. You can have all these different symptoms. Now the problem kicks in where, it now becomes an issue. You can't function. Once you cannot function,
Mm-hmm.
then it becomes a problem. If you come to me like, hey, I'm sad, I'm like, okay, cool, great.
Okay, the overinflation of terms.
Yeah.
Louis C.K. has a great bit where he's talking about how he was so upset when someone used the word, I think, amazing, or yeah, oh, that's just amazing. He's like, is it amazing? Is it actually amazing? And he was just talking like he went off. Like, I hope someone drops you, like the person you love most pushes you over a cliff, and then Superman scoops you up just to drop you from higher. Right? He was upset. Right. He was upset. But like, do you find that there's sometimes an inflation of terms that people just kind of throw them around so much, like, look at this jeans. Oh, I'm so depressed. Like, you know what I mean?
They
Like,
do.
how much of that happens?
They do, and I had to redirect. I really had to redirect. Re-educate people. Like, no, that's not what that is. Or something like, are you feeling happy? Oh, I'm manic. You're not manic. That's not what that means. So people just hear about these terms, from the media or like anywhere else they hear it, and they just want to use them, just like throw them out. Oh, I'm depressed. Are you depressed? Or I'm anxious. Or so. Oh, it's cool to now have mental health, right? So we're just gonna
Right.
feel something and throw out words at people.
Oh
So
my
yeah.
goodness. That's a perfect segue. We have another clip for us to enjoy. And when we come back, we'll discuss.
Teenager in the 1970s, my parents had what were then the normal concerns: binge drinking, drunk driving, teen pregnancy, and smoking, both cigarettes and weed. But the main worries of today's parents about their teenagers, they're of a different sort: anxiety, depression, self-harm, suicide. These troubling statistics predate the pandemic and have only gotten worse since. In 2019, 13% of adolescents reported having a major depressive episode, up 60% from 2007. For people ages 10 to 24, the CDC estimates that suicide rates leapt nearly 60% from 2007 to 2018. And according to the mail-order pharmacy Express Scripts, from 2015 to 2019, prescriptions for antidepressants rose 38% for teenagers, compared with 15% for adults.
Wow. So some people are gonna hear that because there's a game. I'm gonna tell a secret. You know what? I don't want her to catch a stray here. Let's go ahead and let's just there we go. We play a game in the Black community. I may get in trouble for this because we ain't supposed to talk about the meetings. We play a game in the Black community that we hear news stories. We go, Black person, white person, right? So like, teen hurts themselves from skateboarding from, dangerous place. I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't want to spoil the fun for you, right? So it's really, you can bring it back now. I think it's safe. I think we're safe. So literally, you hear that stat and you think, oh, white people problems, right? But we have another clip that will hopefully change your mind, and hopefully we'll have a more accurate conversation about this particular problem.
No doubt taking a toll on everyone's mental health, but experts are sounding the alarm over an increased rate of depression and suicide among Black youth.
New data from California's Department of Public Health shows the suicide rate of Black youth has doubled since 2014. And in 2020, 12 out of every 100,000 Black 18 to 24-year-olds died by suicide.
Those numbers are alarming. The U.S. Surgeon General has also warned about the increased risk of depression, anxiety, and stress. A December health advisory notes that during the pandemic, Black youths were more likely than others to lose a parent or caregiver to COVID-19.
Numbers, stats. I love statistics. What are your thoughts on this? Because do you agree that it's not a Black-white thing, it's a human thing, and here's what we need to all be collectively doing to help?
And this is a human thing, right? I'm also going to throw this, out there that we are less likely than, like white people to die from suicide at all ages, right? Now, us, the Black people, well, our teenagers are more likely to attempt suicide than white.
Oh.
Now, that sounds very surprising, right? Because, a lot of times in the media and the news, we hear of, white teenagers, white people committing, suicide.
Wait a
So,
minute.
yeah.
Wait a minute. That actually makes so much sense. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I think by and large, the families of our Caucasian brethren who have more resources, so maybe they understand how to surf the web better, or like I had somebody show me the difference between a Google search and a Google Scholar search, and then if you put quotations around a specific question, it will try to find that specific question, right, in the Google search. Right, look at your face. Look at your face. Right, I didn't know that. Me neither. Me neither. White kid told me this. Right, so the idea that like if we all have these problems and we're all thinking about attempting it, they're more successful probably because they know how to actually research how to do it correctly. Because I don't know one single person from my community who has learned how to make a bomb from scratch. What do you think about my theory? She's like, look, I don't know what to do with that.
No. I think I think they have more resources than we do. Honestly, because think about it. When they are in crisis, whatever crisis is to them, they are if it's substance use, they get carted to rehab immediately, right? If they are suicidal, next thing we know, they're in an inpatient facility, to get help and treatment. Do we, as Black people, do we know we have resources? Do we know how to use those resources, to get the same help that our white counterparts have?
Right.
And also, it goes back to us as a community. Do we know how to help ourselves and our people? Are we able to recognize all of these issues that we are facing versus, oh, this is a white people thing, this is a Black people thing? It's a human thing because we are all struggling. They're able to voice it and recognize their struggles. We don't have that yet.
Oh man, so I've been told all my life, just suck it up, push through. Hey man, it's always been hard for the Black man. You ain't a slave now, right? Like so, like these bars that we set for ourselves and these rules, right? You don't talk to the police. You don't get people outside the family involved in your family business, right? Kanye West has a whole song. This is family business, and he just listed off some things like, no. There's a therapist for that. There's a doctor for that. There's a police officer for that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he's just like the whole song is like crazy stuff that they're professionals for. And I've, in my own personal experience, I've been kind of been bartered with like, hey man, why you just laying around the bed? Get your lazy Black blah 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 up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how do we start to change that narrative and saying like, hey, this person who's usually bubbly is now sleeping for days on end? Like, that's a red flag, right? The ideal of, we like the church. You can tell a tree by the fruit that it bears, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking on that, and I will say, we need to educate ourselves, because if we are not educated, we're going to do the same thing to our kids, and thereafter it's going to be a cycle that's going to continue. So you're able to educate yourself, and if you start seeing certain patterns, within yourself, or with the people you love, okay, this ain't cool. I don't think you're okay. It's not just about you being lazy. And literally, the same thing happens in the African community, right? Because I am African, they will, if someone has depression, like, oh, you're lazy. People have other problems bigger than yours. We don't know why you're not doing anything. Or, if someone who's a schizophrenic, oh, they're just crazy. You know, the big thing I would advocate for is education. We need to
Mm-hmm.
educate ourselves so we can recognize those issues and those patterns. That's the first step. Because if our parents or our forefathers did not know, and even on top of that, I just think in our community, the way we're raised, we are raised and we there's just that pressure, because we all know we have to work double to achieve, what
Mm.
other people, you know, have or achieve. So, like when I talk to Black women especially, I can see it and they tell me I can't do this anymore. I tell us like, hey, it's okay to break down. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to cry.
Mm-hmm.
We are raised to be tough 100% of the time, and that's not humanly possible. We can't do that. Our Black men, they have to provide, they have to do this, but do we turn and look at our men like, hey, are you okay? You don't have to always be strong. It's okay to cry. It doesn't make you less of a man. If you're a man like, hey, I'm not feeling great today, I'm a little sad, I can't, it's okay. So we need to teach ourselves and our kids and the future generations that this all, I'm a strong Black woman thing, I'm a strong Black man, we got to
Mm-hmm.
stop it. It's not working for us. It's not.
What would you say we could, what would you tell a person if they are the person in the family or household or friendship that is dealing with a person who has mental health issues? What should they look for? How do you distinguish between, what, this is just somebody is just being, irresponsible, or if this is really a problem? It's not just hey, they're just being a jerk today, or they're just being irresponsible. How would you recommend, what can they look for? And then one of the things that we've kind of talked about recently through a couple of episodes is just um, means, right? So even if you get to a place where you can recognize, how do you even begin? Where do you go? Not all of us are fortunate to have insurance where we can search our insurance and it tells us go see this person. Where can they go within their communities to start that process?
That's a really, really great question, right? So if you're living with someone who is struggling with mental health or doesn't recognize they're struggling with mental health, um, the two, the main mental health disorder that gets commonly diagnosed is depression, right? But funny enough, in our community, we're more likely to get diagnosed with something like schizophrenia versus a mood disorder, such as depression or bipolar. Why? But there's certain things you're going to look for. I'm just First of all, with depression, you're gonna have that sadness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sadness, you're gonna have fatigue, there also could be, irritability as well. Like that person could start talking super slow or moving super slow, or just like talking or moving around like really fast, just like agitated in a sense. So you have that restlessness with it. The big one we need to be aware of is suicidal thoughts and ideations. When people start saying, I don't want to be here, or, I wish I went to sleep and I didn't wake up, those are big things we need to pay attention to. It's not just, we just can't ignore things like that. Like, okay, you all of a sudden, you or that person, you have trouble concentrating. That
Mm-hmm.
could also be, a sign of depression. They're not eating. Imagine, Uncle Joe, typically, he's a happy guy, and all of a sudden he stops eating. He's not trying to lose weight. It's just he doesn't have the energy,
Mm.
or he is sleeping all day. If you see someone sleeping all day and that's not their norm, check on them. Be like, hey, are you okay? Like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Or they're not sleeping, you know, it's depression, when it comes to, you know, bipolar. Bipolar is basically you have those symptoms of depression, and then you cycle through what we call a manic phase. Now,
Hey, my favorite.
listen, my
Hey,
bipolar people love to stay manic,
oh my
right? They
goodness.
love that mania, like that energy and that high you get from mania. Now, if you're out here gambling, you go down to Sandia, you out there gambling, spending money you should not be spending, right? We're being promiscuous and reckless. We're driving crazy now. For those of us that live out here in New Mexico, New Mexicans drive crazy. I mean, we know that, right? But if you start to notice, like for example, like your driving habits, you start being erratic, your mood is more elevated, than usual. You're getting like 2-3 hours of sleep at night, and like you're great in the morning. Like, hey, yay!
Don't be looking over here, wife.
Is fun. I don't need no sleep. Those are, once your sleep starts slipping, and sleep is a big thing as well that we don't realize, is a huge component in our mental health. Without
Mhm.
sleep, you're not going to function, right? So those are things that we need to look for, if we're looking at mania, as well. And mania and depression, will make our bipolar. Now, we're talking about psychosis or something like schizophrenia in general, which again,
Mhm.
we tend to get diagnosed with more. Um, we're going to be looking at, okay, I'm going to be sitting here like, and I start talking. Hey, hello. We start having all these conversations. I start talking to myself. I start acting weird. You lose touch with reality. That's really, what delusions and psychosis is. That person loses touch with reality. Like, I can tell you, hey, I'm seeing, I'm seeing Tom and Jerry over there. You're telling me no, Abby, you're not. I'm like, yes, I am. I've lost touch with reality. So
Okay.
like, oh, just think. Funny enough, I was talking to one of my patients who was seeing things and hearing voices at the time, and I was trying to do her assessment, and I sat there and I was like, hey, she's like, hey, I was like, can you please tell your voices that you're talking to me, and could they give me like 10 minutes, please? And then she goes, shh.
Wow.
Right? That to her was real. She told the voices to shut up, and apparently they did. And then
It's nice to know she's the CEO of that
right?
operation.
I love that. I love that. So those are, just signs, some of the signs we need to watch for. Now, when it comes to resources, I'm going to say this, and a big resource, and a lot of people will not want to do it, but it's going to
Uh-oh.
be so important, right? Check in with the closest ER you have, or psych hospital. A lot of people I know, a lot of my patients do not want to go to ER. Why? Because, oh, I'm gonna get locked up in a hospital, right?
Right.
The average length of stay is 5 to 7 days. It is.
Hmm.
What we see in the movies, where they lock you up in a room, and you're in a straitjacket, we can't
Right.
do that anymore,
Wait, can
so
you even call it a straight jacket? Don't get me canceled that game. I ain't trying to catch no straight. Yeah.
I worked in inpatient as well, we can't do that, so I think, people need to see a better picture of what like an inpatient stay looks like, so they're not so scared to go in. Some patients are so scared they don't want to tell me when they're feeling suicidal, because they think, I'm going to call the police to their house. They're going to, get admitted involuntarily in a hospital, and they don't want that. But that is supposed to be a space that's supposed to keep you safe.
Mhm.
So there's definitely a crisis line. If especially if you're feeling suicidal, or you're just not feeling your best, and you need to talk to somebody, right? Um, they are your ERs that that you can show up to, and and just let them like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Again, it does not guarantee that they're going to lock you up
Right.
in a facility. Or you can walk into your local psychiatric hospital and at least get an assessment, because that is the first thing. That is the first thing they will do. They're not just going to pick you up and like throw you in your room. They're going to do an assessment. You may need to be there. You may not need to, you know, you may not need to be there as well. So those are like the more free resources. I think they have a couple on the NAMI website as well. Just kind of help people out. But I think the main thing is we need to destigmatize, mental health, and be like, it's not that scary. It's scary, but it's not. Once you feel safe,
Mhm.
it's not. It really isn't. It's not that bad. At the end of the day, the name of the game is what? Safety.
Safety first. That's it, man. How do
That's it.
you begin the work though of destigmatizing such a? I mean, the PR for for mental health in that way,
Horrible.
horrible, right?
Horrible.
Because
Horrible.
when I know when we started floating the idea of like, hey man, something's off. What is it, buddy? Right? Like one of the fears was, man, they're gonna tell me I'm crazy and put me like exactly what you said, put me in a padded room. Now that I've got this thing right that I have to deal with, which I thought was a forever diagnosis, bipolar 2 syndrome, and just like the initial thing was, it's a thing, right? I can start to attack, I can treat, I can work at, and get out of it, right? It doesn't have to be forever, right? With the proper, medication or the proper, techniques and, exercising and eating right and talking about your feelings and journaling and breathing. Like, there's so many things we could do.
Yeah.
It just was so comforting, but it's still in the back of my mind of like, man, if I wanted to run for public office, let's say, well, he was diagnosed as this. It's like, yeah, but here's what that means. How many people are gonna actually take that seriously, Or how many people are gonna be like, bipolar, what? No, man.
Yeah.
You can't be my dadgum county clerk. What happened to that?
See, one thing I do strive to do, especially, with my first encounter with my patients, and especially if it's their first time ever, making that decision, because it's a huge decision. It is huge for you to sit there and be like, okay, something's wrong. I need help. And for you to actually take those steps to get help, it's huge. And I congratulate, my patients, like, thank you for being here. You did good. This is the first step. So what I do
Thank
as
you.
a
You're
provider,
welcome.
like, you're here, you did good. Let's talk. What I try to do, as a provider, like I said, especially, people who this is their first time ever, I don't try to make psychiatry or mental health sound scary. I try to destigmatize, and I tell people, I was like, hey, let's see, this right here, all of this, it's just think about like, that's a dog that it's bark, it's just louder. It's not that, it's bite. It's like, it's a little bee sting, right? It's really not that bad. So I think when you have that first contact with somebody who is able to calm you down,
Right.
all your fears. And I, I probably told you, I was like, hey, it's scarier than it sounds, right? The meds especially get a bad rep. They do.
Right.
But, you just need to have, I think, it's that first contact with whoever your provider or the professional is, just kind of help you, because I feel like, if I have a patient talk to me for the first time and I scare them away, I'm like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. You're not going to want, first of all, you're not going to trust me. Then you're not going to want to take meds or, go to therapy, and working in medicine. First of all, us as a people, we don't like talking to a doctor.
Right.
Because we do not trust. So if you're not going to trust let's say your primary care, what makes you think that you're going to trust your psychiatrist or your psych NP or anything in this realm?
Right. Take your dadgum pills.
Take your pills.
It's like anytime I get look, hey man, pick that sock off the ground, Dad. If you taking your medication, well, I don't even. Don't try to play me. Like, pick that sock up. I am perfectly fine.
Yeah. So, as professionals, I just think, if we are your first point of contact, we need to be able to, tell you it's going to be okay and show you it's going to be okay. There are tons of medications. And I tell people, um, you're not going to be my guinea pig, because that's what people are so scared about. Like, oh, you're going to, try me on a whole bunch of different meds. You're not my guinea pig. We just need to address all these, like, misconceptions about mental health as providers first, because I don't expect, my patients to do it, because they don't know no better. They're gonna Google and see a lot of really bad
Well,
things.
PPT.
See, just
Man,
go
it
back.
caused one dude big toe to blow up and their stomach to explode. I ain't taking that. Like, wait,
I'm
hold
not
on now.
taking that.
What
Like,
medication you looking up?
no, how dare you? How dare you even offer that to me?
We have a question from the audience. It's my wife.
So, um, so when we were preparing for this show today, I was trying to find different, clips for us to play. And the question that kind of popped up in my mind is when I was kind of looking through like articles and publications and podcasts and all the things. Pretty much there were only really two areas where they really focused on mental health as a concern, which was for young people, which I get why, that's a big concern, because one day they're going to be big people. And so if we break them when they're younger, they're still going to be broken when they're older, unless we do something about it. And then they focused on mental health issues for the elderly, but there did seem to be kind of a gap in information for just adults. So people who aren't young people, who maybe grew up in a time where these for sure aren't things that you talked about, that it really was the ethos of just pull yourself up and push through all these things, this is normal. How What do you say to people out there who are like, I'm 37 and I'm out here looking for I'm out here looking for resources, or at least something that affirms that I'm not alone, but the picture that's being painted is that nope, it's only young people or it's only the elderly that have these issues, and that this is not a concern if you're a working age adult.
Well, real quick before you educate us. That was a very specific age.
I am also 37, sir.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. You see what she did? You see what she did there? Well, I will say
Leave her alone.
you're right. Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to kick him off.
Please do. So, as adults, yes, there's a lot of information, about, the tiny humans we bring forth into this world, and Nana and Papa, right? There's no middle ground, unfortunately, for adults. There are tons of resources, we just need to be aware of them, and I know that there are a lot of questionnaires out there, like, hey, do you have depression, anxiety? Or because actually, when I think about that, our adults just now focus more on, you know, um, our kids and our elderly, and we're not, going and getting help for ourselves, and that's not getting documented, or taking a look at. There's also that question. Now, yeah, we need to go back to resources. And especially, now that a lot of times, there's that sandwich generation where you're not only taking care of your children, you're taking care of mom and dad. You don't have time to recognize and take care of, of your mental health.
Man.
I see that a lot. I talk to moms and dads, and at the back of my mind, I'm like, I think you need to come talk to me also. Yeah. Oh, come over here.
Right this way.
Don't worry about Billy. Leave him alone. Come on.
You come see me. I can like why does this seem like a scene from a movie or a TV show? It's like, here, do something with this little mother. Like, oh, okay, sir. Oh my. Right. Get in there. He kicks him in the center of his back. Get in there and get better, boy. You crazy in the head. Oh, sir. Here are 17 of my cards. You come back and see me anytime, right? That's right. But look, listen, social media. can be rough out there. All except for good old Uncle Zilla's Urban Academia, live every Saturday night, right? Some social media can be very toxic and not as cool as this show, Urban Academia. Urban Academia really is the place that you want to come for information.
But this morning, for the first time, a new warning about something else: social media and what it means for kids' mental health. Why now for this advisory?
We're issuing this advisory to sound the alarm.
Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says there's not enough evidence to show social media platforms are safe enough for kids and teens.
We see rates of depression and anxiety and suicide and loneliness going up among young people. And I'm concerned that social media is an important driver of that youth mental health crisis. This is the defining public health issue of our time, youth mental health.
Research shows 95% of teens are on social media. More than a third say they're on constantly. And teens spend an average of 3.5 hours each day on these kinds of apps, something research shows can double the risk of experiencing symptoms of depression and anxiety.
The other day, my daughter came up to my wife and I and asked us if she could post a picture on social media.
How old is she?
My daughter is 5 years old. She's actually in preschool. But she's been hearing about this from her friends.
All of the big platforms require users to be at least 13 years old to create accounts. But nearly 40% of kids ages 8 to 12 say they've used social media too. Tech expert Max Stossel sees it in the conversations he's had in the past 6 years with more than 100,000 students, parents, and teachers.
When I started doing this work, I was getting the question, is 16 too young to give my kid a smartphone? Now I'm getting the question, is like 3rd grade too young to give my kid a smartphone?
Stossel recommends 14, but ultimately the right age may be different for different families.
You are almost certain to get pushback from tech companies who say they're trying to protect kids. They have age limits in place.
I appreciate that the technology companies have taken some steps to try to keep kids safe, but it hasn't been nearly enough.
The Surgeon General thinks Congress can and should do more to regulate social media companies, the same way safety standards are in place for car seats, for example. And at home, the advisory recommends creating a family media plan together, implementing tech-free zones like at mealtimes, and partnering with other parents with similar philosophies for support.
What's at stake here is our kids and their future, plain and simple.
So I had all social media is bad except for Urban Academia. Live every Saturday night, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. We had a daughter who we were like, hey. Well, right.
Wow. We just accidentally unalived our tiny human.
You know what? Y'all are taking some very large leaps. Ooh. Men, get ready. We're about to get a victory. I get 2 a year. I'm going to use one right now. We have had a daughter use an app that hides other apps. So while I was saying, hey, you're too young to be on this stuff, we don't want you on, she says, okay. And I was like, every now and then I would do a phone check, right? Because I absolutely was like, man, I didn't get a phone until I bought my own after high school. So I'm not, meet me halfway. Like, can we wait till high school? It didn't work out, but whatever. So she's in middle school, and every now and then I would go, phone check, give me your phone. And I, right in front of her, just scroll. I'm looking through pictures. I'm looking through text messages. That's dadgum right, child. Right? Sorry, I went somewhere just now. Whew, breathe. Ox,
you good? Breathe. Deep breath. Deep breath. Ground yourself.
So on one of these random checks, I noticed an app that I'd never seen. I didn't say anything to her because I was smart. And I went and researched that app, and what it was like on the screen, it looked like one app, but you're able to put a bunch of apps inside that. So your parents don't see Facebook and Instagram or Snapchat. All they see is like this cutesy little kitten little thing like, hey, how you doing? Which, by the way, who the frap is that marketed to? A cutesy cartoon kitten. Hey, kids, you want to hide your app so you can get your fix?
Yeah.
We got an app for that. Okay? So how do we even begin the work of keeping up with these people? Like my 4 and 6 year olds, they see what I do, and I can tell they like it because they consume it a lot, right? And oh, we can be on YouTube. I'm like, sure. So I'm already thinking about, okay, there will be no comments. They will not have access. It'll be limited amounts of time. Like trying to set up all these things. Like, what can we do to combat something that's essentially the color blue, right?
Well, and something that their parents are also addicted to, because they focus it from a kid perspective. But let's be real, those 3 hours and a half that they're on social media, so are their parents.
Yeah.
They're probably on there with them at the same time.
Yep.
Liking each other's stuff,
Liking each other's posts, like, hey, baby girl.
which is okay if it's Urban Academia Live, 8 p.m. Saturdays.
Because I'm not a parent, I think you guys do a great job at trying to protect your children, but what you're fighting against is all these big tech companies who create apps and websites, marketed or catered, towards kids who, being a teenager, you think you know everything, they get on, on these apps or websites, do what they do. Apparently there's like a fake Insta or something like that.
Oh yeah, there's always a knockoff.
There's always like a knockoff version of it, when kids go behind there, they're posting things that they should not be posting. I just think that, tech companies need to honestly do better. They can't keep creating things and, okay, you already created a problem, it's not good for our kids,
right?
For the kids, because when I used to work child adolescent back in Austin, a whole bunch of them come in there, either cutting themselves, they saw a challenge on social media, or I'm gonna kind of share like a very personal-ish. I got on TikTok like 2021. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do really silly TikToks, right? And I deleted everything off it because it started getting to me. I was like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. All of that, the self-esteem started, declining. That's what social media does to you. And then imagine being an adult, what it does for our kids and our children. They're still growing, they're still learning. They have to go on there, and their friends or celebrities are posting XYZ, and they want to match that because they think it's cool. Again, that's what kids do. We were kids, we did things that we thought were cool because our friends are doing, because they don't know any better. That's just it. We can't change that. It's always going to be like that, But I feel like the government and tech companies need to, do something about it, because the general public or as parents, there's only so much you can do to protect your child, because these kids are going to go to school, talk to their friends, and they're going to figure something out. You're not going to know about it. So as much as y'all are trying, you guys' best, those tech companies, those humans, they are working against.
What exists in school? We were introduced to this triangle thing, right? At the base of the triangle, the 2 points are parents and teachers, right? At the top of that pyramid are the students. But each of us had, our responsibilities, right? Tech companies definitely have their roles to play, but a lot of that is, algorithms and mathematics and computations, like, how to maximize profits, right? And they think they cover themselves with all of these rules throughout the known and unknown universe and perpetuity and all these terms, right? They kind of cover themselves in that way. What do you say to people who believe the real problem is us? Like, we're the real problem. Because say what you will, if you can't get on there until you're 13 and you're 10 and you're on TikTok constantly, how is this happening? Because I would tell you, we went through that phase in middle school of like, how do you even on Facebook? I have an email, a personal email. How do you have a personal email? Don't need to ask you, like, if you're 18. What do you say?
Yeah. Yes.
What? I said, do you say that you're 18? No. I said I was 22.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way to, verify ages, when you're signing up, for all these social media, sites and apps. I could tell you I'm 50. You don't know that. You're not going to
Well, that
verify
black
that.
don't crack for real.
It don't, but so imagine what our kids are doing, um, even on websites, certain websites,
Well,
those
hey man.
websites, you click,
Oh, real quick, come on
are
now.
you above 18? Click yes.
There was a whole trend where literally kids would get in trouble at football games, at sporting events, and anywhere they had a band. And I guess they were playing. Like, it took me a while to catch on, right? Because I'm sweet and innocent, you know what I mean? But Pornhub, they would literally play the intro to Pornhub, and all the kids would go, "Oh!" And it took the adults a while to catch on. Like, what's so great about this tune?
Pornhub has an intro.
No, it's
They
not.
do
It's
have
like
it.
a little, like
It's a little, yeah.
it's like a little baseline something
Yeah,
already.
that's what I'm saying. They have a baseline. They have production.
They're a company.
Listen,
It's
they
a
have-
$1 billion industry. Yes,
like you
wife.
would know instantly. It's that
Yeah.
recognizable.
Oh, not my wife. My wife is sweet and innocent. She would never. But I'm saying, like, you be at these school events, and then like they play that song, and with the little drum riff behind it, and all the kids would go nuts. Ah, he did the thing, and those are like, they're too happy. Let's research this.
Yeah.
And so they start catching on and start getting on the kids, but like a whole group of toddlers know the Pornhub intro music.
Yeah, but
Same thing on TikTok. It was on there on TikTok, and people were like, they had challenges, like they were like playing around their parents, and they're, to see if their, parents would recognize it. That's what we are all exposed to, us and our children. That's what our kids are exposed to.
I think it's too that added thing that I think that fear, because I think do you want to be that parent who's like, you can't have a phone and you can't be on social media, and your kid goes to school and then they feel excluded because they don't have a phone and they're on social media. I've actually had people say that, like, I gave them a phone because they were coming home discouraged every day.
Talk
Every
about
day.
the psychology behind that. Like, I could give my kid this thing that I know I struggle with, my body image. I've got body dysmorphia now because I've watched too many Kim Kardashian pics flow through and just kept looking at myself, and now I got a problem. Do I give my kid that thing, or do I allow them to potentially be ostracized? Like, why is being on the outside of society like the most deadliest thing? Like, that's the biggest punishment.
Because as a society, we have now tailored, because the thing in society is, we look at norms. When you start swerving away from the norms, that don't, you could be right, you could be 100% right, but if you're not walking with that crowd,
right,
they turn and look at you like, oh no, something's wrong with you. Right? Versus, ooh, no, something's wrong with us. Like, why are you walking that way and we're walking that way? Right? So as a society, we have,
somebody from Twitch. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I totally messed up.
So they're the comments. In a private chat. See, think about it. I gotta check it in the savings.
What happened was
what had happened?
What happened was, listen, I'm an ADHD, okay? Y'all can't be doing that to me. I'll be like, anyway, so again, so as a society, again, we have just tailored our minds to, wanting to do one thing. Now, as a parent, you're gonna ask yourself, okay, do I fall into that group, where I give my child set phone or set access, to social media and whatnot, or, and if you leave them out, they're going to go to school and go get bullied. I don't think there's no right or wrong. There really isn't. I just think, it's how, you do what is best for you and your child.
Mm-hmm.
What you do may not work for somebody else, but I don't think we all need to be giving our tiny humans phones and all of that just because, you feel pressured. This is your child, this is your family, you know what's best for you. in
Right.
your home. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. She do have the ADHD. Like she did not shut out the show at all. But what? Listen. How can people can they find you? Can they get help from you specifically? Can you give that a shout out? Are you allowed to? And then you can go ahead and let people know what one of the best podcasts on the planet are.
Listen, first of all, shout out to Urban Academia. Y'all amazing. But where to find me, currently located in Albuquerque. Watch out for me in a couple months. I'm going to be starting my own practice called Selenite Health and Wellness LLC. It is tailored for us, mainly for us. I think it's important, for you to see, Black provider. That's where it starts. So Selenite Health and Wellness is it's gonna be starting in a couple months. I am on Insta. It's pretty empty. Honorary Coconut. Shoot me a DM. And let me know if y'all need anything or have any further questions for me to answer.
Absolutely, absolutely. So listen, I'm gonna filibuster a little bit because you got a little request right there in the private chat. Look at that.
Now.
Anywho, sailors.
Let me reply this private chat. See. You got me doing everything now. Let's.
Listen, look. Uncle Donald Trump, right, says that you should you should see the forehead slap going on.
What are we doing? I'm sorry. I'm just putting the info y'all asked for.
Listen, Uncle DT says
why are we talking about this man? Why are we talking about this man? Why? Why are we doing that? Let's not.
Because I like to think of every human as family. We just have some family members that suck.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We have some family members that suck. So as I was saying, Uncle DT, the art of whatever, like the first person to talk loses. So every now and then I throw out a little oh, there it is. Ooh. Selenite? Say it again.
Selenite Health and Wellness LLC.
Selenite Health and Wellness. But sailors, I love the concept of sailors. They can't control the currents. They can't control the winds. We watch anime. One of our favorite anime shows is One Piece, right? And it's not a lot of that looks hard over there. Let me go this way. It's like, well, let's go. It looks like it's hailing. It looks like there's a whirlpool and a daggum giant fish. Let's go, right? Like, how do we get people? Is this going to be one of the positive ripples out there, right? Selenite Health and Wellness LLC, to get people to say, hey, man, it's pretty chaotic out here. Orient yourself, aim at something positive, and just learn the techniques and tactics that will help you navigate these very chaotic, rocky waters.
And I think it's important to highlight that it's a telemed practice, which means you don't have to be able to see her in person. You just got to have a phone.
Wait, Selenite is?
It's so I'm going to tailor my practice. It's going to be telemed, which means, it's going to be video visits. So you don't need to drive anywhere. My goal is to start with, patients in New Mexico and then, branch out to other places, but I want to start taking care of us here in New Mexico. I want us to have a safe space. Let's that stigma we have when it comes to mental health. Come and talk to us about it. We are. I was doing telemed one day back in Austin, and my name is Abigail.
Abigail.
My patient thought it was a white girl, right? Abigail, because they're like, you're gonna go talk to Abigail, and he. So he's like, oh, you're Black. Does that excitement?
Same. I was just like, because how the one that you're going through now? It's like I was like, I need a Black dude. Like I need somebody who can look at me and like, your blackness is not afraid. It does not frighten me. Your genitalia does not frighten me, sir. We are here to work, and I will wrap you up, right, in a positive way, right. And so first it was like, well, no Black guys are available. And I was like, oh. It's like, oh, well, we have a couple of females. It's like, because y'all scare me. I ain't gonna lie. Like, what can I say? This is supposed to be a safe space where I'm telling my deepest and darkest. Like, I'm Southern, you know. I come from a single parent home. My mom and two sisters. It's like it's hard to just really open up. But I was pleasantly surprised to see your profile as I was, getting told what to do. First of all, the tone, I should have known. Like, hey, you need to come see me. You need to come do this. It's like, why does this feel so familiar? Maybe Abigail has some black friends, and then it's you. It's like, hey, like, especially in New Mexico, y'all, we are so low on the totem pole as far as demographics. It's laughable. But I'm gonna let you go eventually. One last clip, and I promise.
Sure.
No, not a last clip. I'm being waved off. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me. Any other questions, anything, y'all let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer it.
Yeah. Sorry. Look, I am being a poor producee, I guess. What you call it? So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead, hang out in the back room. Do not leave. Do not leave. Do not leave. You're gonna be off the, out of the lights, but you're still gonna be here. Do not leave. Okay.
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. So, the color blue. Somewhere along the lines, someone decided, some company, because of a shortage of blankets, they were trying to get rid of some colored blankets because all the babies like these white blankets because it's pristine and pure and all the things. And so he says, "Well, what are we gonna do with all these blankets?" He's like, "Well, what do we got left?" Well, we have pink and we have blue. Okay, here it is. We'll say that blue is for boys and pink is for girls. And so now when you see a little baby in blue, whether you admit it or not, you dadgum think, boy. Okay? Primarily. So there are some things that have just seeped into our society that just is. So when you hear me reference, I want to be the color blue. I want to be just something that people just throw on and, in the background, right? I think the stigma of mental health in the Black and brown community has become the color blue. Okay? What is that? What the fuck does that mean? I have no idea what you're saying.
We're closing out the show, sir. And we have one final clip to show to the people before we get out of here.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you, producer. So that stigma is becoming the color blue. We just, as Black and brown people, believe, Uncle Joe, poor Uncle Joe, is caught so many strays. Uncle Joe crazy, or Uncle Joe just sleeping for the next 3 days. Like, we have to get away from that. And just like we created the color blue being for boys, we can also create that mental health is something we all deal with, and all of us can be part of the solution because we are definitely part of the problem. So one last clip before we leave, and after that, we'll let you all go. Thank you so much for joining Urban Academia. It's muted. It's muted.
A lot easier.
Wait, take it off. Oops, sorry about that, folks. Now I'm ready. Go.
Hold on.
I'm almost ready.
Why does she want to play?
Nations Commission. Every 11 minutes, someone in the United States loses their life to suicide. All across our country, people are hurting and they need help. The good news is getting that help just got a lot easier. Effective immediately, if you call or text 988, you will be connected to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. There, professional support is available for anyone with a mental health emergency. The new 988 Lifeline is free, it's confidential, and it's available 24/7. It's also a game changer for mental health in the United States. Like 911, establishing a universally known number for suicide prevention will increase awareness of these issues and decrease the stigma surrounding mental health. So I have a message for anyone out there who might feel like you need help and you've got nowhere left to turn. You're not alone. It's not too late. Dial 988.
For you.